Warning, the following video was created by somebody who, for the sake of this video, has put on his purple glasses. This video shall be filled with a whole lot of hopium. Side effects may include reaching, speaking things into existence, and Super Bowl fever. Viewer discretion is advised.
So excited! So excited!
Ravens flock, you already know what it is. We about to soak up this dub real quick. We got a game next week. Obviously, it's a long season, but let's not even play around here. Let's enjoy this moment. Let's enjoy this moment for all the people that feel the audacity, the audacity of these people to come out over and over again and try to disrespect our quarterback. Mind you, as Ravens fans, if you haven't noticed, as a fan base, we really don't talk about other quarterbacks that much for the most part. There's a few YouTubers who do, but for the most part, we're more focused on our team and what we need to fix, our overpaid players, or certain players who are overpaid, a head coach who is very overrated and needs to be fired, an offensive line that in the first couple of weeks was struggling, but they're getting it together. Shout out to them. But these are the things we're focused on. But these other teams, you know what they're focused on? They're focused on Lamar Jackson, and we gave him a show. I wanted to do a video last night, but I was so excited, man. I couldn't even get myself to stop and make a video. I just said, forget it. I need to go to sleep and reset for the next day. Just forget it. Against all odds, we reminded everybody that we are still that team. I'm sure you all know. In case I gotta remind you, we beat the Bills 35-10 yesterday. And again, I have to say against all odds, because against all odds, we went out there and we exposed another team. People that keep doubting us like they always do. They did this last year on the Christmas game against San Francisco. They did this last year in the Miami game. They do this time and time again. And time again, we go out there and we put our foot on people's necks. And this time, we didn't blow a lead. I'm gonna start off with the positive. Like I'm just flowing right now. I'm freestyling. I had notes. I'm not even looking at my notes. Forget my notes. I'm in a great mood right now. To start with the positive, Derrick Henry went off. I mean, from that first run, I said, "Oh, it's game over." I said, "It's game over. It's game over." You know, like my main concern with Derrick Henry was because he's a downhill runner, which is just another way to say that he's not that explosive as far as it takes so long for him to accelerate. My main concern was, do we have a good enough offensive line to actually allow him to get to that second level, to get those first couple of steps? And to the credit of our offensive line, but also more importantly, to the credit of Pat Ricard, one of the unsung heroes, Pat Ricard, Todd Monken and John Harbaugh, they finally realized that, hey, Derrick Henry works better when we put him in an I formation, and when we put Pat Ricard in front of him to escort him to the end zone like his own personal bodyguard. He took off, man. Again, he still has plenty in the tank. He made that abundantly clear in this game. He had 208 total yards, 199 rushing yards. He would have had 200, which he really wanted, but he fumbled at the goal line, and that really was the difference. But again, it was still a great game. I mean, he's still a force. He's made that clear. I'm very happy to see that, because even though I was slightly optimistic about it, I was on the fence, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I don't want to see him come to us and then he's not the same person. But the last 2 weeks, even the first 2 weeks, he looked okay. But the last 2 weeks, they've really been fine. They've really been gelling, finding a nice groove, he's really hitting his stride. Justice Hill is going off. Justice Hill is another unsung hero on this team that we don't give enough love to. Shout out to Justice. I'm very proud of him. I'm very happy for him. And I'm very happy that Todd Monken saw something in him, because many people in the Ravens flock last year, they were a little confused that Justice Hill was getting as many snaps as he was last year, especially in passing situations. But clearly Todd Monken saw something in him, and he understood the full value of what he could get out of Justice if Justice just gets enough time in his system and it's paying off. He had a great game. You know, he was a leader receiver. He had one explosive play after another. He showed that he has that home run ability. He could be that fire starter for us for right now until Keaton Mitchell gets back. And even once Keaton Mitchell gets back, we're gonna have a three-headed monster. It's gonna be amazing. You know, the another positive is the first like two or three drives, they went as well as you could have hoped they did. We scored two times in a row. No, we scored three. We scored on the first three drives back to back to back. It went as well as you could have wanted it to go. Uh, Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, and Zay they made they made key catches. They also had some tough drops, but again, we didn't target them enough for them to really get a chance to make up for those missed opportunities, which, you know, you kind of feel bad for them, especially Bateman because he got pulled on what would have been perfect timing on a touchdown, but at the end of the day, it was still within arm's reach and he just couldn't bring it in. It is what it is. But shout out to Nelson Aguilar again because the one bad throw that Lamar made in this game, it was that pass that should have been an easy interception for Buffalo, but Nelson Aguilar jumped out the gym. He listen, I ain't never seen Nelson Aguilar get that vertical. I didn't even know at this age, at this stage in his career, he was capable of getting that vertical. That man, I don't even that was insane. This dude reached the top shelf and he was just trying to bat the ball away. But crazy thing is, he almost pulled it in. It's one of them scenarios where you ever do something so impressive, you shock yourself. I really think that Nelly, he was just trying to bat the ball away, but it was still catchable. I think he just kind of shocked himself and didn't realize it was going to be catchable. And, you know, he just couldn't bring it in. I definitely owe Nelson Aguilar an apology. I remember when we signed him 2 years ago. I literally laughed. I came on this channel and I laughed because I said, "Bro, the Ravens are trolling us. Why are they bringing this guy in? Like, you know his reputation, you know this and that." But to the front office credit, you know they make a lot of mistakes, but Nelson Aguilar was something that they did get right because who would have thought that Nelson Aguilar and Lamar would have such good chemistry? If you pay attention, when it's third and long, Lamar's looking to Nelson before anybody else. Even he's looking at Nelson even before Zay. Now I'm not now granted, I think Lamar likes Zay more than Nelson Aguilar, and I think he has more faith in Zay overall. But if you pay attention, going back to last year and especially this year, if you look every time when it's a third and long situation, 9 times out of 10, he's looking for Nelson Aguilar. And they're connecting on they're connecting on these plays. Now Nelson has some drops here and there, but he's connected with him. You know, he's kind of, especially with Mark Andrews being in this weird place where he I don't know if he's washed up or if he's just injured and hiding it, but especially with Mark being a non-factor right now on these third and long situations, Lamar is looking for Nelly before anybody else. And then if he doesn't see Nelly, he goes to Justice. But uh, to go back to that pass, that was the one pass that I thought was a bad pass by Lamar all night. And you know, it's just tough because if you watch the replay, Lamar completely missed Zay Flowers, who is like 10 yards down the field. Who, if he hits Zay right there, that's either a touchdown or at the bare minimum is going to be at the 1 yard line. But other than that, Lamar played an excellent game, very efficient. He didn't have to be Superman, which is very nice to see. We didn't rush Lamar double digit. You know, we didn't have double digit rushes from Lamar, which was very nice to see. I still don't want to see Derrick Henry run this much because at his age, with as much miles as he has on his legs, I don't know if that's the best idea. Like when John Harbaugh said, "We're not trying to rush Henry 30 times a game," I understood what he meant. But I also didn't like that in week 1, we only rushed him 13 times. Like, I didn't like that balance either. Like, I think the ideal sweet spot is to rush Derrick Henry maybe 15 to 17 times, and then you give Justice Hill about 8 rushes, and then maybe Lamar takes 4 or 5 rushes or whatever. So, that way we're rushing the ball more or less 30 times, and then let's say on an average game we have 60 plays, the other 30 times we throw the ball. And that's something I'm definitely looking forward to in next week, is the fact that teams are gonna be extremely scared right now of Derrick Henry breaking loose, because now Derrick Henry just put the league back on notice that he still has something in the tank. So I'm imagining every team coming up, they're gonna go out of their way to load up the box even more than usual. Like, if y'all were paying attention, there was a point in the game yesterday. There was a point in the game yesterday where I kid you not, Buffalo's defense had 10 men in the box. I swear to God. There was a point in that game last night where they had about 10 guys in the box. I I've never seen that in my life. It's one thing to it's one thing to have like 7 guys in there, maybe 8. They had 10 guys in there. They were scared out of their mind of what we might do rushing the ball. And I know there's gonna be other teams coming up who they're also gonna be scared. And if things go the way that I would like for it to go, we could actually play off that and actually start to throw the ball more again, and actually get, all our receivers and tight ends involved again, because that's the I still don't think we've really hit the sweet spot. Like, we got off to a good start passing the first like 2 weeks, and then the last 2 weeks we've really leaned into rushing. I really don't think we've hit that sweet spot yet where we had that perfect blend. Because once we had that perfect blend, I mean, if we're blowing out Buffalo by 25, you could only imagine what it's gonna look like once we have that perfect blend. Once we have that perfect blend, and once our O line gets more opportunity to build up some chemistry and really get some confidence. And that's another thing that made me happy, was seeing Lamar encourage his guys. He's talking to them on the sidelines, making them feel like he believes in them, giving them that confidence, giving them that reassurance. That's a big deal. And they're playing like they want to prove him right. They're playing like they want to put their life on the line for him. So that was nice to see. Then also with the tight ends, they made a lot of good blocks in that game. Isaiah Likely has made massive strides as a blocker. At this point, with the playmaking ability of Isaiah Likely and him getting better at blocking, I mean, even if Mark was healthy, which I don't think he is, I mean, Likely has surpassed him. Like, that's pretty obvious. But to go to the defensive side of the ball, they shut the Bills down. I was excited to see that. Very excited to see that. All the people that were prematurely crowning the Bills the best team in the NFL, and they were prematurely crowning Josh Allen MVP like they do every single year, they had to get humbled. They had to eat some humble pie. We saw Kyle Van Noy. He went into a time machine. He's back at his prime somehow, even though he's like 80 years old. Odafe Owe got a sack. He was getting pressure all night. Matabike and Travis Jones, they were shutting down the run. James Cook was essentially rendered useless, not only because we had such a big lead, but also because of the fact that when he did try to run, he couldn't get anything going for the most part. He had a few decent runs here and there, but for the most part, they was holding him down. I mean, they was holding him in check. Our secondary, for the most part, held their own, which I was very excited to see. And I don't want to hear any excuses. Actually, I gotta make that a separate video. Gotta make that a separate video, because I'm already seeing all these excuses for Josh Allen and the Bills. But the fact of the matter is, the so-called MVP of this year so far, he went up against a team that in every other game this year has given up 315 passing yards on average, and he could only put up 180 yards on them and zero touchdowns. He got completely wiped out. It was very exciting to see. This still wasn't a perfect game. It was a solid game, but not a. It was a solid game, but it still left a lot to be desired, in my opinion. Didn't like that weird timeout that Harbaugh took right after having another timeout already occur, which kind of, which I mean, it was just stupid, flat out. I don't know what the goal was there, but then also I didn't like the fact that towards the end of the second quarter, we didn't try to really score one more time. Because if you noticed, at the end of the second quarter, there was 42 seconds left, and we still had one timeout. And instead of us trying to take one more shot down the field before halftime, we instead decided that we were just gonna run like a generic run with Derrick Henry. It got stopped at the line of scrimmage, and then we just called it a day and just let it go to halftime. I really didn't like seeing that, but I mean, it is what it is. Overall, it was very exciting to see it. This was a very fun game to watch as a Ravens fan. I could only imagine how excited people were in the stands, but yeah, man, this was, again, this isn't the best we could be, but this is definitely a more satisfying win than the win that we had against Dallas. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. How do you feel about this win? And how much better do you think we could get after a win like this?